The following is a hockey podcast out of Vancouver and Surrey, British Columbia. It'll only consist of a lot of puck talk and even more BS, or in actual words, banter and satire. Enjoy, and as always, go Canucks go.
There's nobody who embodied the Canucks more than Jim Robson.
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Locked On Canucks. My name is Trevor Beggs, sports reporter for Daily Hive Vancouver. That guy is Kyle Bhawan. Olympic hockey in full swing. Tough day for Canada and the U.S. The men start playing tomorrow. Some of those Vancouver Canucks start playing tomorrow.
What do you mean tough day? Tough day for Canada, U.S. What does that mean? Canada lost to the U.S.?
No, you don't pay attention at all, eh? Come on, you don't watch women's hockey, Kyle? What's going on? Unbelievable.
Trevor, I was paying the bills today, okay?
Fair enough.
Valentine's Day month is here. Valentine's Day week is here. Valentine's Day is in a couple of days. I need to pay the bill so I can make sure my girl wins this Saturday. I don't know about you, but that's where my focus is, Trevor, in my life, okay? So don't blame me for not respecting the women's Team Canada hockey team when I'm respecting my woman. It's called loyalty, Trevor, okay? That
was the perfect rebuttal. And yes, Canada lost 5-0 to the United States in women's hockey today. Sorry to break the news to you, Kyle. But that's not the most pressing topic of today. I think the thing that's on the mind of all Canucks fans across the planet is the passing of Jim Robson, Vancouver Canucks legend, gone at the age of 91. And Kyle, let's just be real with the listeners. He was a little bit before yours and my time. I think
a little bit.
By the time he retired, I was 6 years old, but I've heard the call so many times throughout the years, like watching old Canucks clips, watching videos of the 94 run, the 82 run. He even said hello to Jim Robson once at the rink. And, from everything you hear from every single person that's had a tribute for him, just one of the nicest guys in the world, just an incredibly down-to-earth guy. And look at the guys he helped mentor too, like in John Shorthouse. I know John Shorthouse had a touching tribute today as well on a local platform. So, this is a tough day for the Vancouver Canucks because, Kyle, I meant it when I said it off the top. I mean, I'm not sure if there's any single person that's been associated with the Vancouver Canucks that embodies the Vancouver Canucks more than Jim Robson.
Yeah, man. He cares, man. And not to throw everyone else under the bus, but it's like, why do you think a lot of us get so pissed off when it's clear that like some players just are cashing checks and not caring and don't care about the crest or don't care about the city and lose to the media and lose to the only the negative fan? It's like, dude, your Vancouver Canucks has some pride, and Jim Robson had a lot of pride for our favorite hockey team. And Trevor, you touched on it, right? Jim Robson, to me, is like way before my time. Like, I don't even remember watching one broadcast with Jim Robson as the commentator, or like the play-by-play guy. I'm sorry. I don't, because I started watching hockey in 2001. So that might have been his last year, or he might have retired the year before.
1999 was his last year, which is really like the first year I started watching when we were like kindergarten, grade 1 age at that time, right? So it was a long time ago.
Yeah, but straight up, props to Jim Robson, obviously, for being just an amazing human being. Like, everyone says he's the nicest guy ever. You see all the conversations about him today. He was an inspiration, but again, like such a gem of a human being, right? His heart was bigger than anyone else's heart. All that being said, to talk about the technical side of things and his inspiration that he was able to like pour over everyone else. Like, dude, we listen to Jim Houston and John Shorthouse growing up, like that's like who we have in our lives, right? Jim Houston, John Shorthouse. And if you pay attention to things, like if you wear really expensive headphones or wear cheap headphones, but just like compare the broadcast between like Jim Houston, John Shorthouse, and Jim Robson, like you can hear like the comparisons, like you can hear the tutelage, right? And Trevor, we've had some bad hockey teams over like the last 25 years of us watching hockey, but dude, our play-by-play is top notch. It's elite.
We've been blessed.
Elite. And Jim Robson, thanks for making the games enjoyable in the past and in the present. I know moving forward, like these are like culture, like this is what we talk about culture, right? Like Jim Robson set the tone for like broadcasting culture, and there's no way that Canucks fans will have like a time in the future where our broadcasters, our play-by-play guys, like the official guys, aren't elite for real. Like again, John Shorthouse and Jim Houston, and Jim Robson's watching from above. Like he'd love for us to like just spend time talking about those two. Those two are like 95 plus overall, absolute icons. So good at what they do, and I'm so grateful that my hockey viewing experience started with those two voices, and just growing up and learning on how they actually got to where they've gotten, and learned about their voice through Jim Robson's tutelage, and just him, not even just his tutelage, like him just putting on, like Jim Robson's the type of guy where it's like, if you can't play hockey, but you're watching him broadcast games, you want to be Jim Robson. You know what I'm saying? Like that's how damn talented his voice was. And it worked for guys like Jim Houston and John Shorthouse. And I'm pretty sure Brandon Batchelor too.
Yeah. Brandon Batchelor had a long tweet thread today about, the impact that Jim Robson's had on him. And look, Kyle, I think this is worth noting too, but, Jim Robson was, a broadcaster at a time where Canucks games weren't always on TV, right? Like he was the voice of the Vancouver Canucks. Like if you consumed Canucks content in the 70s and 80s and you only saw games on TV once a week, Jim Robson is how you got to experience Canucks games, right? Like just think about that for a second. Like in this day and age, there's all different kinds of feeds and angles and broadcasts of hockey games nowadays. But Jim Robson, I mean, he had a whole other job back in those days and really brought the game to life for people. And not only that, but he was multi-talented. He had the ability to, cover Lions games and lacrosse games as well, right? Like, and again, just an incredibly talented guy. And again, even though we were just babies at the time, it was like, he'll play, he'll play with Trevor Linden.
Dude, back in the day. I remember stealing my uncle's phone when I was like 8 or 9 years old and downloading a whole bunch of Canucks ringtones just because I was a nut. And at the time, it was like 2002 or whatever. And all the Canucks ringtones that were available to download were just like Jim Robson calls. And I was there, again, stealing my uncle's phone and downloading those calls. And even though YouTube wasn't even invented at that time, right? I probably didn't even know what those calls were broadcasting, but they just sounded so iconic and so special. And again, just a guy who had the most class, a super nice dude. But technically speaking, and I don't know, Trevor, you and I are podcasters, like broadcasters, whatever you want to say, fans. It's safe to say, man, I'm reading a book right now called like How Champions Think, and this is the opposite of how a champion thinks. Like, we never being as good as Jim Robson. Like that's how good. Like he's like Gretzky, like to a point, And on that note, maybe like globally, I mean, there definitely is probably some American broadcasters that took some game from Jim Robson just because he was like that good. You know who he reminds me of sometimes? Like that Vince Scully guy from the Dodgers, right? Like that, just like his narration again, you brought it up too, right? There's no YouTube. Not every game was broadcasted on TV. Like he really had to storytell and bring like his words to life, right? Like he was just so good at that. But maybe like he doesn't get the recognition that he deserves, because he deserves it all, because the Canucks never won a championship. And just going back to that that John Shorthouse clip that's circling around the internet, based on, again, what he had to say about Jim Robson on Canucks Talk on Sportsnet today, and him crying about the fact, like it almost like literally broke my heart. I'm just like in the work flex right now, so I couldn't really soak it all in. But this John Shorthouse started crying. Not because like of the amount of respect he had for Jim Robson, which probably did lead to like the burst in tears, and not because of like his prowess and whatnot, but because of the sole fact that Jim Robson did not get to see this team win a Stanley Cup. And maybe he's known more if like the team does win Stanley Cups with or without his voice, but the Canucks don't really have they're like more of a meme-like team when it comes to like historical relevance in the world of North American sport. Like if you Google the Vancouver Canucks, like their most famous things are like burning down the city, right? So they're not like the most sexiest sports team, but man, how could you not like feel away when John Shorthouse says that about Jim Robson? Like it broke him down knowing that Jim Robson didn't get to see a Stanley Cup. And I connected with that, man, because like, not to make the moment about me right now, but again, Jim Robson seems like the type of guy where he would just want Canucks fans to talk about it openly, that's not fair. That's not fair. And it's another reason why Trevor and I especially Trevor, risking his life in scrums. This is why we don't we're not going to just pat the Canucks on the back and be like, oh, don't worry, things happen. It's like, dude, this city deserves way better than the bullshit that you guys have been spewing out for years and years and years and years. And yo, Jim Robson deserved better, man. He deserved to see one. He did. You're muted. You're muted.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was one of my first thoughts when he passed away, was that there was probably no one who deserved to see a Stanley Cup win more than Jim Robson. A shout out to the fans over the age of 35 here. Let us know in the comments if you're listening, whether you're watching live or interact with us after the fact. Join the Discord, link in the bio. What are some of your favorite Jim Robson memories? And I recommend all fans, if you haven't done so. I've watched this countless times, and the clips on there's little videos, documentaries of the Canucks Cup run in 82, the Canucks Cup run in 94. I watch that, man, because I'm a Canucks fan. And I want to enjoy some happiness. Great. I want to reflect on the good times, pay homage to the team's history. So I recommend you go watch that if you haven't already and hear Jim Robson's beautiful voice.
Trevor, you know what would also be a cool thing to do right now if you're a Canucks fan? Go enjoy all of Jim Robson, and also take the time, because I want to do this now. Again, you and I probably love hockey way more, considering we've had elite broadcasters do their job. We had all those guys that we just brought up, and we also had Don Taylor. You know what I'm saying? It was so easy to be a Canucks fan, and I don't think that's the West Coast inner child bias. I think that's just, no, these guys are just too good at their jobs. And another guy that we haven't mentioned in a long time, it's Tom Larshai.
Yeah, who rode shotgun to Robson for a number of years.
Yeah, and then worked with Shorthouse after, right, on the radio.
Yep.
Dude, I remember growing up as a kid, and you never saw Larshai on TV, right? But it's he was way better than anyone. He should, no offense to John Garrett, but I'm just saying, John Garrett was great too. He's 90 overall, 88 overall, 89 overall. But Tom Larshai, bro, I could only to me, that's another guy who has the standard in broadcasting. And people in Vancouver, man, super, super blessed. And again, I'm sure Jim Robson, and this is just the way it goes, people have to set the tone and make it something. You know how everyone says oh, Toronto is a hip hop capital because of Drake. Jim Robson, Vancouver's a broadcasting capital, a broadcasting hub, straight up elite talent here. And it's because of Jim Robson and the tone that he set.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, let us know in the comments. Favorite Jim Robson memories. On the other side, more broadcasting talk, potentially some Olympics talk as well. And maybe some talk about Elias Pettersson and exercising the demons coming up next on Locked On Canucks. Before we get back to the show, let's shout out our friends over at Indeed. If you've ever hired someone who looked good on paper but wasn't the right fit, you know how important that is. When you want candidates who truly match what you're looking for, trust Indeed sponsored jobs. Hiring Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posting on other sites, because Indeed sponsored jobs puts your post at the top of the page to help you reach the right candidates faster. And man, oh man, if I needed to hire someone for the show right now, we want to apply to be the producer of Locked On Canucks, boom, bam. I would go straight to Indeed and be very specific about what I need. Real experience, not just a resume buzzword. So make sure that you spend more time interviewing candidates who check all the boxes with less stress, less time, and more results using Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of the show, you'll get a $75 sponsored job credit to help give your job the premium placement it deserves at Indeed.com/lockedon. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support the show by saying you heard about Indeed on this very podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with
People, we back doing this, and that's talking about your Vancouver Canucks. Once again, rest in peace, Jim Robson, never forgotten. And Trevor, man, we don't talk about it enough because we never get deep on the show, and we just we live too quick. But let's raise the standard. Why not? Let's get better. Let's get better and pay homage to the great broadcasters from here again, the West Coast, the best coast of Canada. Before we talk more, though, and do our jobs, let's read the comments. NGK saying Pettersson's the highest paid player on Sweden, and he's not even playing in his own position or on the power play. NGK, come on. What? Why do you have to just take it there? Hey, why do you have to take it there, okay? Unbelievable. Dan Jardine also saying Jim Robson was the master. I listened to him from the get-go. Rest in peace. If you guys are new to the show, Dan Jardine is the grandpa of the program. Join the Discord. And yeah, you know what? How old is Dan Jardine again? He looks 42, but I think he's like 78 or something. What? Why are you laughing?
I thought he was like in his mid 60s.
Oh, okay. Well, he grew up on Jim Robson, so
yeah, okay.
You know, you're lucky, man. And yo, Trevor, can we just make an announcement right now to the people? Like, please don't use artificial intelligence to like, recreate Jim Robson. You know what I'm saying? Let him be, bro. Like,
yeah,
you know,
for sure.
Just keep it classical, keep it classy, and you can't even type up a script that would give you like something Jim Robson would say. So don't even bother doing it, okay? Anyways, Trevor, do you want to get to NGK's comment? Because I know like you've been itching to. People are calling you like the Elias Pettersson hater now. I saw a comment yesterday and like, yo, you need to be studied for the 360 that you've put forward, or no, the 180. I'm sorry, that you've put forward here when it comes to your stance on Elias Pettersson. So yeah, as NGK is saying, again, the Olympics start tomorrow, and we're finding out that Elias Pettersson is not playing center. I found out today that he's also not going to be playing on the power play too on both units. So talk about it.
Well, look, man, I think my opinion on Elias Pettersson has been confirmed by what Team Sweden's doing with their Olympic roster, And look, for the 180, I mean, look, longtime listeners of the show know, everydayers know, the longtime everydayers know. You and I were some of the biggest Elias Pettersson supporters out there. Like, even when many in this market were turning on him and saying the Canucks will never win with Pettersson, I'm going, no, this guy's got way too much talent. He's going to figure it out. It's been 2 years now, and he hasn't figured it out, right? He does not look like the same player. I think he's lost the speed. He's lost the burst. And so, at some points, he's maybe even lost the passion if you listen to some of his teammates. And look, there's quotes out there where, the quote that he gave to Ian McIntyre resonated with me a bit. He said basically he didn't want to use the Olympics as an escape because he wants to, win with the Vancouver Canucks. I'm paraphrasing a bit there. But yeah, he's clearly not the same player. And I stand by my take that I think the Canucks would be better off trading him, exercising this roster of the failed core, and moving on to the future. And now with Team Sweden, look, for those who missed it, Pettersson is playing with Mika Zibanejad, or skating with Mika Zibanejad and Rickard Rakell on Sweden's third line. Now, as much as it's nice to poo-poo on Pettersson, he's not getting top six and not getting power play. Sweden also has Adrian Kempe on their fourth line, which I find really bizarre too. So, I mean, look, just even swap Kempe and Rakell, man. Like, let's let Elias Pettersson and Adrian Kempe get some chemistry going, man. Like, that's still one of the stories I'm really looking for at the Olympics. But look, I think we all want to know, like, is Elias Pettersson going to show something different at the Olympics? I don't have much hope of that. But one thing I am maybe a little hopeful of is him, having chemistry or reconnecting with old teammates and seeing if there's a way to get him out of Vancouver and get value out of him. And I think the Kempe storyline's one. The other one I've been thinking about is the New York Islanders. Of course, Bo Horvat's at the Olympics. Elias Pettersson has never been the same since Bo Horvat has been gone. That's not necessarily true. He had a nice run, but a lot of people say that's when the Canucks core ended. And, last year there were reports out of New York, and we had a New York Islanders guest on, Gil Martin, shout out to Gil, that the New York Islanders were interested in Pettersson and how they could see him being a good running mate with Bo Horvat there with the Islanders. And look, you got an Islanders team now with some young talent. I think they're ahead of where they thought they'd be. I still wonder if there's a fit there. And I wonder if there's, just the chance that Elias Pettersson and Bo Horvat can be around each other in the same city for an extended period of time. I'm wondering, Kyle, I'm dreaming a bit, but do you think there's any chance that Pettersson and Horvat, hanging out a bit in Milan can perhaps spark the conversation between the New York Islanders and the Vancouver Canucks again?
Probably not, to be honest. I think, like, if Horvat and Pettersson get close and it's like, oh, Horvat goes to, who is it? Like, it's not Lou Lamoriello. It's Matthew Darche. Goes up to Matthew Darche and it's
it's Matthew Darche now. Yeah.
Yeah. We should get Elias Pettersson. Like, Matthew Darche is going to be like, shut up. Like trading for Pettersson is not it's not sexy. It takes like mathematics. It takes work, like Elias Pettersson's not a player that you get at the deadline to, put your team over the top. Like you're going to have to like do your research and like convince Vancouver to take on some money. Like, it's a bigger deal. Like I just don't think something swings at the Olympics, and that mainly does touch on, or stem from, again, me not having a lot of faith that he's gonna like raise his ceiling, let alone his floor this Olympics. Like again, apparently no power play time. What are we talking about here? Who are we talking about here? And Adam Foote had that quote today. So, I don't know if you have it in front of you. Talking about Elias Pettersson's year, and it's the same old thing. It's like what Rick Tocchet was saying for years and years and years, but in a different sense. He did touch on it being a work thing as well with Pettersson. So yeah, like there's room for this guy to grow and improve on, and maybe he can do that in the offseason and come back stronger next season. But like there's just no value to him this year. Like he's probably one of the most least valuable players in the league. That's just the truth. When it comes to like his contract and like, you know what I'm saying? Like he's the most overpaid player in the league by far and away. He is. I don't have a doubt. Jonathan Huberdeau, sure. That's the only one, but he doesn't even count. He doesn't count. Straight up, he doesn't. And again, it's going to be hard to trade for Elias Pettersson like immediately. Like he's being a Canuck for the rest of the season. And Trevor, like to be a little positive though, just to turn it around, okay? Like let's just be happy, okay? Let's be Vancouver Canucks fans. Let's be like more Jim Robson like, okay? Like for real, this guy's a big Canucks fan. I'm trying to be a big Canucks fan right now and just be positive. When I read that article with Ian McIntyre, I did hear about like Linus Karlsson talking about Elias Pettersson being a really good leader. Niels Höglander had some good things to say about him too, how, he's not an emotional guy. He's not a rah-rah guy, but, Elias Pettersson is that guy. He works hard. I don't know, like maybe not all is lost in that dressing room when it comes to like Elias Pettersson being looked upon as a leader. And one other thing that I got from that article as well, because I actually read Trevor, there was Elias Pettersson said that he wants to be part of like the turnaround. You know what I'm saying? He wants to be a part of like getting this team back on track. So with all that information, I don't know, maybe like I'll turn you into less of an asshole. Look at me now. We're doing a switch right now. You know what I'm saying? But like, what do you have to say about all that? Do you think it's just like fluff and like just PR stuff from Elias?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I could see him wanting out of Vancouver, and maybe he's just giving the press like what they want to hear. I do think he's probably a smart guy. And I think he doesn't want, he wants to be out of the spotlight. He doesn't want the drama. And I think how many times we heard Pettersson in Vancouver say like, I don't want to give you guys a headline. I don't want to give you guys a headline. I think he's learned to say things to not give us headlines. That's how I read the situation. You can call me a hater. You can call me cynical, but that's the way I read the situation with Elias Pettersson there.
And you know what? That's fair too, because what's that saying, Trevor? That good old Canadian saying, okay? You can only cry sheep once or whatever. What's the thing called again? Like when you know what I'm trying to say? Like you can only cry. What I'm trying to say is like Elias Pettersson, we've had enough of the talk. How many times we have to hear you say like things are going to revenge tour, or I got to work hard. You know what I'm trying to say, Trevor? Like enough with the talk. Oh, I want to help turn this around. No, you don't. How come you didn't come to camp in shape again? How come you weren't in elite shape? No, for real. How come you have to work your way back into game shape? How come like it was really apparent that like Rutherford and Alvin were like by the end of October, I'm paraphrasing just a little bit, but real talk, I'm not paraphrasing too much, but by the end of October, like there's some grace period for Pettersson. Like, we're confident that he'll be back. It's like, that's just not good enough because I just don't think this is a guy that leads. I don't think he's a guy that like takes his fitness super seriously. This is coming from a guy who gained 20 pounds over the last 5 years after being happily in love. But nonetheless, I don't think he has that dog in him. And again, Adam Foote bringing up the whole it's a work thing with Pettersson. It's like, how come what I'm trying to say, Trevor?
Yeah, why are we still talking about this? I completely agree.
It's apparent that like his struggles. It's not about the wingers. It's not. Shut up. I hate that stuff. It's not about that stuff, bro. This guy doesn't want it. He doesn't want it as bad as he should. That's just the truth. And based on the fact that this guy again, he's had some injuries and some personal stuff as well. Like, it's big stuff. Maybe the book will come out and we'll like understand it all, but hockey is not the most important thing in this guy's life. And that sounds like a normal thing to say, but I think when you're getting paid that much and you're not an entertainer, but you're an athlete for, again, the Vancouver Canucks, you have fans living in the most expensive place in Canada, one of the most expensive places in the world, paying to watch you play, right? Taking their time when they could be like working Uber Eats and like, you know, balancing their books. But no, I got to watch the Canuck game. When it's that type of economy or that type of like system that gets you paid like that, yo, I'm sorry. Like, hockey's got to be super duper uber important. And I think like his off seasons and like whatever like he was able to do in the first couple of years of his career, like I just think that like he hasn't upped his preparation. And he's not like Alexander Ovechkin who can drink Coca-Cola and like score a bunch of goals, or he's not like Drew Doughty because he doesn't have that inner beast in him that like can surpass like fitness parameters or whatnot. But all in all, again, what I'm trying to say is I just don't think he cares that much and prepares as much. He's not a warrior. And again, like Adam Foote bringing up the whole work thing, and it's just annoying, dude. It's just annoying.
Well, there you go. Elias Pettersson. We'll see if he cares at the Olympics. Speaking of care, we care so much about Locked On that we got to cut to a break here. We'll be back on the other side here on Locked On Canucks. Before we get back to it, wrap up, we got to shout out our friends over at Factor. Cold days, packed schedules, and big goals. That's winter. And when there's not a lot of time to cook, eating well can feel like another thing on the to-do list. That's where Factor comes in. Factor makes healthy eating easy with fully prepared meals designed by dietitians, crafted by chefs, so you can eat well without the planning, prepping, or cooking. Factor meals are always fresh, never frozen, and ready in about 2 minutes. I need that in my life. Let's go. And the ingredients stand out from lean, mean, powerful proteins, colorful veggies, whole foods, and healthy fats. There's tons of variety as well with 100 rotating meals each week. Wow. So it never gets boring. So make sure you head on over to factormeals.com/LockedOnNHL50 off and use code LockedOnNHL50 off to get 50% off and free breakfast for a year. Eat like a pro this month with Factor. New subscribers only, varies by plan. One free breakfast item per box for 1 year while subscription is active.
Boom, bam. Shout the Factor. Go eat your meals. One love the Factor. People, we back doing this, and that's reading your comments here on Locked On Canucks. Drugum is saying, Kyle, you always blame PD when the whole team sucks. Okay, well, maybe you should email teamsweden@gmail.com and ask for Pettersson to get some power play time. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, again, this is the same player who at the Four Nations last year in a short tournament got like 10 minutes, 11 minutes in like the end of that tournament. You know what I'm saying, Trevor? He's just not that guy right now. And maybe he should read that book that I'm reading, you know, How Champions Think. Maybe it is all in the head and like he just needs to be more confident, but I don't know, man. It's a lot of things, and it's another year where Elias Pettersson is paced for like 50 points, and that's just not good enough. But yo, Drugamus, do your thing and go print out that hockey card from Elias Pettersson this year that has like all of his block shots and hang it up on your wall.
There we go. Yeah. Elias Pettersson at the Olympics. I'll say that's not the that's a big storyline, but like Kyle, I want to ask before we get out of here, like what's the main storyline you're watching at the Olympics, whether it's Canuck related or not? Like I know for me, Quinn Hughes comes to mind. I'm really curious if Philip Hronek is going to lead the tournament ice or in minutes played on that Czech team. But I think for me, even from a non-Canuck angle, I'm so curious how Macklin Celebrini is going to do this tournament. I mean, I think he's going to kill it, but I'm very curious as to like where he's actually going to play and like, can this guy be a difference maker when the game is on the line?
Yeah, the Macklin thing is big. I also am I'm very, very interested in like watching entire hockey games of Nathan MacKinnon because I don't do that. You know, only when Colorado plays Vancouver, I'm like, you know, observing and being like, holy crap, this guy's just amazing, you know, and just a lethal force. And I'm curious to see, like, when I watch those games, am I going to have a moment where I'm like, yo, is this guy better than Connor McDavid? I'm going to have a couple of those moments. And then I'll also have that moment too where I'm like, yo, can Macklin Celebrini, who again, Trevor had that stat that he pulled from Sportsnet a couple weeks ago when you were comparing like the two players in their first 2 seasons and who had more points, and it was Macklin Celebrini.
Yeah.
Like, are we going to have that conversation too? Like, oh wow, is Macklin going to be as good as McKinnon and McDavid? So, those storylines are going to be there. I'm also interested in seeing the whole Filip Hronek thing and how well he does against Canada. Because, you brought up the Russell Wilson trade for the Seahawks in yesterday's episode. I wonder if like that's the Russell Wilson trade for the Canucks, and that's trading Filip Hronek and just like getting a bunch of assets. Because I wonder, like Filip Hronek's always going to be good, but I wonder if he has like a bit of a Jacob Slavin effect in the Olympics. Like, oh wow, he's really that good. And again, that could bode well for asset management. And third, not that he asked for 3, but yo, I got to give it to you. It is the Elias Pettersson thing. Because, bro, there's that 1% chance that he does prove us wrong. Because if it is a mental thing,
1% chance. That's about right.
If it is a mental thing, Trevor, like the switch could be flipped, and again, he's the elite athlete. You never know. And if it does get switched and he shoves it up my rear end, so be it. Trade value goes up. It's a win-win situation. And if you're a Canucks fan, I think I'd rather have Elias Pettersson raise up his trade value to a point where we don't have to retain on a future deal than win a gold medal. That's just me.
Yeah, I've always said I'm Canucks first before Canada. So if there's a pro Canucks storyline that's going to help us, get closer to winning a Stanley Cup, I'm all for it, baby. I think we're going to wrap up here on Locked On Canucks, Kyle. I got some work to finish up. Also, check out the line change. I'm late for jumping on his pod too. Let's go check him out. But one love to you and you for tuning into this episode of Locked On Canucks. If you like what we're doing, hit the goddamn like button on YouTube. Subscribe to the show on the podcast side. Go follow us and leave a 5-star review. I'm Trevor Beggs. That glowing God, my God, Kyle, you're glowing.
Valentine's Day
that's
week.
Kyle Bhawan.
It's Valentine's Day week. That's why I'm glowing. It's because I'm spreading that love, and love is sending its way back to me. I think my girl actually sent the sun to me. That's the power. If you believe in love the way I believe in love, Trevor, then you'd be further in life. I mean, no, you'd be happier. That's what I meant to say. So let's rest in peace, Jim Robson. Thanks for everything. Peace.
Your Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.